What's going on, guys? It's your boy Cash, and we are here today because there are some new characters in the game. Finally, Helbram, Red Helbram, you know, all the Japanese server people, they're broken. But they also released two other characters that I feel like people are not talking about as much because they're not Red Helbram, you know, which is fine. You already know how that goes, right? If it's not the top tiers of tier, they don't care of care. So what I'm going to be doing, like I said, every time new characters come out, I'm going to do a quick little guide on them to give you guys some type of feeling or what you should be doing if you happen to get them. I feel like I'm the best one to do it because for some random reason, the people they have this already preconceived notion of certain characters. So if you're not within like the top 10, I feel like you just get overshadowed regardless of how good your kit might be. Like I really feel like people sleep on Red Slater, and even though he provides a really great buff, and same thing with Blue Gother that literally has an AoE debuff skill nullifier, which a lot of stuff sometimes in the meta is debuff skill, and if you have some type of ranking up, you could really do some crazy stuff. But he's not Red Gother, so it's like, fuck him. And in a sense, Red Gother is better than he is in a lot of places, but it doesn't mean that this Gother is inherently bad. Let's go over the characters. Let's start low and go up. So we'll start with this guy, then we'll go to Red Helbram, and then we'll go to the last dude. So I was actually looking at this guy and I was like, he's actually kind of spicy, I'm not gonna lie. Holy Knight DOGEDO. I actually don't know how to say his name. But first off, he starts off with the S1 and it's Nitro Rush. Now Nitro Rush, as you can see here, even at rank 1, prevents ultimate move gauge from filling up. Now what's really cool about this is that regardless of what they do as far as like swiping cards around or combining cards, this will prevent that from happening. So it won't stop an ult. Keep that in mind. So you won't stop an ult, so it's not like Bond's S1, Red Bond's S1, sorry, or Green Merlin's S1 where we'll remove a gauge and then the ultimate will go away. If they have ult, you're pretty much screwed, but you're supposed to prevent that by being preemptive and stopping it in general. It does scale up pretty good, going up to 450 at rank 3, which is pretty good. Also, it will prevent it for 2 turns at rank 3. These are both 1 turn, but at least the damage scales up. I've noticed, and I really need to pay attention, I hope you guys are too, that sometimes ranking and scale up literally doesn't add damage. So if you're trying to increase your DPS, pointless to combine 2 cards. It's just better to maybe even tap 2 of them separately. But even this one, at least the damage goes up, so that's pretty good. And I think that that's a really good debuff to prevent them from gaining ult, especially with a lot of people that are pretty much, oh, I'm just gonna get my King ult, oh, I'm just gonna get my Diana ult. And you can kind of have him in there to say, well, no, you're not. And for bosses, depending on which ones it works on, that's obviously really good too. It's a really cool mechanic, especially for global, that there's no thing like that. I know that there's other characters I think that do something like that, or I've seen it at least in boss fights. So it was very annoying. You pretty much lost access to your ultimate, which is pretty much a finisher for most characters, and not that many characters can actually kill you with just the base of their kit. They need that ultimate to kind of finish you off. So next up, his S2 has Ruin. We were just talking about Ruin with the last Slater video. FG did a Ruin video, even though he barely used it in the video, which I thought was kind of funny. But he now has Ruin, so we have another character with Ruin. I think that makes 3. And as you can see here, it does scale up, and I don't have to tell you guys, you can look at the Red Slater video, is that when there's a bunch of debuffs on the characters, the more that there are, then it will do more damage. I unfortunately don't have the character at the moment, so I can't tell you whether or not you will get like this is multiple debuffs, but it just seems like it's 1. Really good damage, and it have a team that kind of provides debuffs, and debuffs are pretty much a strong part of the game, in my opinion. That's why I said characters like that Blue Gother that literally disables debuffs AoE, and he can keep doing it at rank 1 is really strong. Because when you have a character that can literally put the debuffs on them, and then you can take them off when you feel like it. Do additional damage as you're taking off, hopefully to get the kill. Usually that's when I feel like you want to use it, and I feel like the people that are criticizing FG for it that's the reason probably why he doesn't want to do it, because you don't know how much damage it does. So if you take all your debuffs away and then now the person is pretty much cleansed for free, maybe it took a little bit of damage, but you have to pretty much play with the character and realize how much damage they're going to do. You know what gear you have on them, you know how much damage they do. So I would definitely say with Ruin, you want to test that out a little bit, see how much damage your character does. So when you're using it in PvP or in PvE, you know, the reward of cleansing the opponent for them, it's like, hey, I got you, I'll purify your unit, but it's gonna die. That's, you know, that's the trade-off with it. Next and last but not least is the boost Hammer. Cancels buffs and stances on one enemy, inflicts damage to who cares, and stuns. So he has a stun, and now he's in line with the crew with Green Meliodas, Captain Meliodas, Elaine, and now he also has a stun on the S3. So that's really good. And I mean, it's self-explanatory. Stun, they can't do anything that turn. It is a debuff as well, so it does synergize with characters that have weak point. So that's pretty good. So I would say he's a good character. I think that if you were to pull him, do you need to work on him immediately? Probably not. A lot of the characters in gacha games, as the time progresses, their characters are mostly made for PvP. After you beat the story, you're just pretty much, I guess, you're just farming, right? You're just going to be doing farming. You're going to have a farm team, and then that's going to pretty much do all that for you. And outside of that, you're going to have specific teams based on your PvP units that are really good, that can probably do something anyway. That's why Blue King is so good, because he pretty much helps you do everything. It doesn't really matter where he's at. He's going to help you with everything. So he's definitely a PvP unit. Also, I forgot to look at his passive because I'm a dum-dum. Increases strength attribute allies defense related stats by 30%, which is good if you're running like a mono red, or you probably won't have to necessarily run mono red, but it works for him and it works for any other red characters, strength attribute characters that you have in your team. So that's nice, makes them a little bit tankier. So that is DOGEDO. Next up is going to be Red Helbram, and everyone, oh, he's here. He's here, everybody. Oh my god, I'm so wet. He's a pretty good character. I'll start off with the passive because that's very important. Ancient Magic increases base stats by 5% per surviving ally. I have to ask the JP people, does that actually work in the death matches? Not the boss battle, the death matches, when you actually have, you know, several allies, and that would be crazy. But yes, it does work. From what I do remember hearing is that it does work with the 4 allies that you pick, even though the one that's in the bench, it still counts. So that is it's 5%, right? So 20% increased base stats from the get-go. It's not a buff that you could take away, it's a passive, so that's really strong. So that's pretty good. And obviously if you combine him with Blue Daddy, Blue King, he also has it that he's increasing fairy basics stats as well, and then you can combine that whatever the heck you want. But just to say that he's pretty strong from the get-go. So he's getting free boost in his stats, and then you can obviously give him more stats, and with the gear, that's how it works. He has the Green Merlin's S1, the Red Bond S1. Well, I keep saying Red Bond, but I have to say that the SR Bond because it's like 15 bonds in the game. So yes, he takes off ultimate move gauge orbs, which will counter people with ults, as a little bit different from what we just said. And as you can see, 120 to 300 and then up to 450. This character already has a lot of strength because of his passive, so this is going to hurt. The boy got the damage. You definitely got some damage going on for him, so that's pretty good. And like I said, removing ultimate orbs is definitely a pain in a lot of people's side. Same way with the DOGEDO, is stopping people from ulting is pretty much win con. Like if you can ult and they can't ult, I feel like you win. Next up, Stone Needle. And see, this is another one. As I said, sometimes when a thing ranks up, it doesn't actually increase in damage. So if you're combining this, you're only combining it for the petrify, because the damage is exactly the same. So if you're trying to DPS, just do 2 rank 1s and don't even bother ranking it up, especially because there's against bosses that are immune to petrify, or in the situations where maybe there's a Gallon on the team and you cannot use a debuff skill, so you might as well hit him with 2 S2s at rank 1 instead of ranking it up, and then you're not gonna get the petrify. Let's go up to 250, which again, not that big of a boost, but it does petrify for 2 turns. Just something to keep in mind, because that's something that I always assume that, oh, I should rank this up to 2 so it does more damage, and that's not always the case. Gotta be very careful of that. Then last but not least is the S30, which you never see because no one really uses Helbram at all. Even though his other version has like the buffs, some people like it because you can like stack the buffs. But yeah, his ult has very low, 280. Most ults that I see have crazy amounts for an AoE. Like it's really worth it, but it does cancel buffs and stances on it and all enemies and inflicts some damage. But maybe it's because of how he has his passive that it would be too strong if he were to have it up higher. If you bring in Gustavo and swag Blizzard Bullet, and it will go up to 350. But again, I have to be honest here, is that I've never seen him in combat, so I don't know if this is more balanced, that it's okay that it's a little bit lower. Because if I go to someone like Deanne, her base is 525 and then it goes up to 600. Like, that's kind of crazy. This is SR Gulia. her base AoE remove stance 420. Like his is just very low. Like 280 is very, very low. So I'm assuming it's to compensate for his buffs and how much stats that he has. That's just my assumption. All in all, I still think he's a pretty good character, especially with the Petrify. It gives you the Petrify on top of the ultimate remove. He's kind of like a more full package. I don't think he's necessary in any shape or way or form. Like if I'm gonna pick a character that has the ultimate move gauge removal thing, Green Merlin I think is the best, because that barrier is good all the time. It's always good. And I also forgot to do gear, so let me do gear for DOGEDO, and which is, I kind of feel like gear is kind of a waste of breath almost, because it's basics. But interesting enough, I would say, you know, you're pretty much safe going the regular degular attack defense. He doesn't have anything that induces crits in his kit whatsoever, so there's no reason, in my opinion, to even go for that. Might as well go for the combat class, and just going for defense, I feel like it's safer overall to just give you an increased survivability. That's why people just go attack and defense. You can go crit damage, but the crit damage thing I feel like is only for characters like Jericho or Green King that have some type of mechanic that is going to allow them to do that damage. And same thing with this guy. I think attack defense is going to be the best thing that you can go. He already gets free stats per surviving allies, though he does not really do anything to keep his allies alive except the Petrify, but it's the best thing to go. They need more gear sets, honestly. It's pretty dry when it comes to the gear. So now we're going with the new other SSR that came into the game. Now I saw that, like, I feel like a lot of people didn't care about him. Like he wasn't like really sought after. I feel like there wasn't enough like hype or anything like that about him. I read through his skills at first and I was like, he's kind of trash, but I re-looked at it and I was like, he might actually be kind of spicy, you know? So let's go with the first one, DEATHPIERCE. First one, Acelerando. S1 starts off as a normal attack, and as you got another one, the Merlin swag, 220 base, which is pretty good to have as a base, honestly. And then this, if you rank it up to rank 2, it disables buffs and debuff skills. Now, when I was thinking about all that stuff, I was like, debuff skills added in there is kind of spicy. Buff skills, not so much. There's not that many characters that buff, but as I've just been saying, there's a ton of characters that debuff, and to be able to shut down debuffing, I think raises a character's in PvP by a higher amount, to stop people from petrifying, stop people from attack ceiling, stop people from doing all that nonsense. So automatically, to me, that makes the character stronger than a lot others. And if you get it up to rank 3, it also will finally go up in damage, and it will then disable the buffs and debuff skills for 2 turns. Like I said, I value that very high. Even this is a debuff skill. Like if he was to do this on himself, he wouldn't be able to do anything, and it makes ranking up certain cards just useless. So I don't know, it's very strong, very, very strong in my opinion. Next up is the Shatter, which is just DPS. It ignores resistances, which pretty much he has a very high chance of critting you if you build crit. He also has this, decreases all enemies crit resistance and crit defense by 30%. Now this is really good, obviously, if you were to combo this with a character like Jericho or Green King, because reducing their crit defense means that they're going to take more from a crit, and crit resistance, which not that many people play into, but it's still pretty strong. That, you know, I would have to see, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, see, look, base crit resistance 30, crit defense 20%. So if I can assume, and I don't really know, I'm being honest here, that if you were to have crit resistance and it gets lowered, then the other person has a higher chance of critting you. Because even right now, your crit chance and crit resistance on this character base, right, is 30-30. So not that it cancels each other out, but if he's lowering it by 30 right off the jump, then now you actually have a realistic 30% to crit someone, which is pretty good. And I'm pretty sure that's for every character. It is not. That is interesting. That is something I did not know. Or maybe because he's 40, right? Ooh, that is interesting. I actually thought that these stats, when you pop the drop down menu, were actually all the same, but they are not. See, he has no crit resistance, he has 10% crit chance, and he has 170 crit damage. That changed a lot, actually. So he starts off with 30 crit, and this is Green Merlin. She starts off with 20, 10% crit resistance, and this much crit damage. Interesting. Sucks that you can't see it for characters that you already have, because I would be really curious to see how much Jericho starts off with. Anywho, that's still pretty interesting. So that actually, even though I was already thinking about going crit on him, because if a character has some type of crit mechanic, you want to make sure that they crit. Same thing when I haven't made a Green Jericho guy, but honestly, if I was running Green Jericho, I'm gonna run her on crit. I haven't got the exact gears for it, but that's what I'm gonna do, because the character just works well when they crit. And based on her base crit, which if I'm not mistaken, mine looks like it's gonna be 30, you add 60 on top of that. Sorry, you add 30 on top of that, makes it 60, and then she only needs to do a couple attacks and she's really high a chance to crit. There's so many times that I've used Jericho and she doesn't crit when I need her to. If you can, like, sometimes you get the ult by combining a bunch of cards and that means you didn't actually attack enough. You get the ult so quickly and then it doesn't crit, and that's the whole point of the ult. It does double crit damage. So I think characters shouldn't always just pre on attack if they have some type of crit mechanic. He has a crit mechanic. That's the whole purpose of his kit. And then ignore resistance here, which is kind of dumb when you think about it, because if he's reducing it by 30, every character that I just checked, and probably a bunch that I would check if I kept going through it, probably don't have more than 30% crit resistance. So him even ignoring it further, I guess that's just for bosses. Are you going to use this guy on bosses? Looks like this would work. I don't have the character, so I do apologize. I can't tell you whether or not these are skills that will hit the the gray demon. It looks like it is. They don't look like they're physical touching moves, and all alts actually always hit, so that's perfectly fine. He's proper attributed, he's green, and he's gonna lower the crit resistance of the boss and the crit defense. So your characters that are critting, which people are bringing Jericho, people are bringing Meliodas and other characters like that. So I think that you can definitely bring him in there. Now you're not gonna like summon for him. I mean, you get him, I think, if you pay what, $5, $7. I'll check that a little bit later, I promise. And finally you have the Brillante, I don't know. So as you can see, higher base than Helbram for reasons we don't know. But it's AoE, it's an AoE hit, but what I really like about the AoE is that it decreases attack related stats by 30% for 3 turns. I can't express to you how strong that is. That is really good. When your attack is lowered, so much stuff doesn't kill, and when you're hit with that, it's kind of hard for you to even judge as a person. Like we were just talking about Ruin a little bit ago. How do you know that something's gonna kill now when your attack is lowered? And not only is it lowered for 3 turns and by 30%, you're gonna have some difficulty getting that. Like rushing his ult would be great because they definitely have to purify or something like that. But one of the top purifiers in the game is blue, so he'll have some time with that. And if you're running like a green team, he's also human, which has synergizes with human buffing passes as well, which I think is, for some reason I thought that Green Guild Thunder was it is nice that he does give you defense 30% PvP, but there was a human passive. There it is. I was like, I knew it was one of these famous characters. It's from Arthur. Increases human allies HP related stats by 50%. So pretty much gives them an HP buff. So that's pretty good. So you can kind of, do some little fancy combos and stuff like that. All in all, I think he's great. Like I said, if I was to suggest a gear build, I'm definitely going crit damage. That's just how I like to run it. If you're gonna go crit, you gotta go dirty. You gotta go full dirt. With one little set, you're gonna give him 30% on top of that. And then if you want to be even friskier, you can even give him the crit food and then he's at 90 base, and then you can actually do the same thing for Jericho, and then literally should just be crit all the damn time. And I would like to see, when you lose 30% of your crit defense, I think that's probably a lot of characters dying and a lot of sad times for the opponent when his characters are getting instantaneously killed by this guy. And then on top of that, like I said, he can just disable your debuffs. This character's stronger than what I think people are giving him credit for. And of course, because look at him 2 seconds, he's not broken. Okay. What? I gotta make a team? Bah, no, fuck that. No, fuck that. Make a team. I don't want to do that. Let me know what you guys think about the 3 characters. Who's your favorite? Who do you think is the best? We're gonna end this off with a summon as good as I think Red Helbram is. Gowther is way too strong to pass up on, and same thing with Gallon. Now Gallon is a little bit harder to summon for, because he will be I think just in the regular summon, so you'll have to do a free summon to get him. But Gowther eventually will be in the coin shop, so I could technically just not summon for him. It's not going to be the worst thing in the world. So I'm going to put this on this banner. Plus I'm really close, as you can see here. I'm really close to getting the pity. I think this will be my 3rd pity. Red eyes, red blinks, tattoo, no forehead. So it's a good shot. No pig. I feel like when you get the pig, you lost already. That's just my opinion. It is yellow, which is a good sign. That's not a good sign. I think if you get overpowered, it means you're screwed. Yes, sir. I wish he got overpowered earlier so I didn't have to watch the whole animation. Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure I get this next pity again, and then I'll probably just save. Yo, here it is. It's the Hawk Pass. I'm free to play at the moment, and I'm trying to stay that way, to be completely honest. I'm just curious of how strong and how good like an account can be by being free to play. This doesn't seem too bad. $8, you get a SSR, 7 Deadly Sins. I think it's part 1, so I don't think it's any of like the newer characters that are coming out. That's what it says. It literally says part 1. You get an SSR, you get 2 of them pretty much for $8. What is that, 2 SSR pendants, or is that just 1? Well, technically 2 when you finish it. And some other little goodies along the way. So it's not that bad for people that are always looking for the bang for the buck. I think, let me know what you guys think. And again, as you always know, is that every day at the casino is your lucky day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.